So it's not that you can, if you have your love for Krishna, you can just do anything and it will spread the movement. No. Then why why weren't his efforts more successful in India, even though he's a pure devotee? Because as Prabhupada himself taught, you also have to have the right strategy. You have to be intelligent. And so, if you care so much about other people, if you care so much about the suffering, conditioned souls, then, and if you care purely, you will do whatever it takes. You will do whatever it takes to help them. And if someone is so caught up in external formalities, which are just details and not basic principles, devotional service, that one does not do what it takes to reach the fallen souls, that is not purity. It may be ritual purity, but it's not spiritual purity. And there's a huge difference between someone's imagination of ritual purity and spiritual purity. For example, when Prabhupada sent Tamal Krishna Goswami to China, Tamal Krishna went in a suit. He let his hair grow out a bit. He had to sit at tables, with Chinese people, making friends while they ate their dog meat. The result, there are thousands and thousands of Chinese Vaishnavas. And if he would have gone to China with someone's idea of ritual purity in terms of how to dress and what to do, there would be no Hare Krishna movement in China. And thousands and thousands and thousands of sincere souls would not have been saved. Now, the point I want to make is there are different kinds of barriers to the spreading of Krishna consciousness. One is legal. In China, there was a legal barrier. I can prove to you, in 10 seconds, that cultural barriers can be more formidable, more difficult than legal barriers. And all I have to do to prove that to you is to show you two examples. One example where a country where there are no legal barriers to preaching, no legal barriers to preaching, Harinam, but the movement is just in a catastrophic state. It's just in a catastrophic state. And another country with severe legal barriers where the movement's flourishing. These two countries are France and China. In France, there's, liberté, égalité, and all that. In France, you can do anything. You can go on the street, you can, stand on your hands and clap your feet and whistle Dixie. It's a free first world democracy. And I was in France. I spent a month in France last year, and the condition of the movement is, wow. I mean, it's not good at all. We are not reaching the French people. And yet, legally, it's all free. China, serious legal barriers. It's, a dictatorship that calls itself communist. It's, this heavy dictatorship, heavy control of everything. The movement's flourishing. So if Prabhupada authorized, encouraged Tamal Krishna Goswami to do whatever it takes in China, obviously Tamal didn't break the principles. Obviously he kept himself strong in Krishna consciousness. But he did whatever it takes, and he saved thousands of people. And what about a country where the barriers are even higher? There's no rule, there's no Shastric principle. If you have a legal barrier, you may adjust external details. But if the barrier is merely cultural and not legal, you may do no such thing. It's about, the truth is what works. The truth is what works. I was actually told by a senior person who, that, we don't need what you're doing in France because everything's going great the way it is, which is like, obviously there are parallel universes. If you look in Europe right now, because of this, frankly, if you wanted to tell the truth, because of Muslim immigration. In America, immigration is a big issue. Thank God our illegal immigrants are Catholics. Because, thank God. They're nice people, they're not terrorists, they're nice people. Imagine if all the people coming from Latin America were Muslims, and a certain percentage of them were radical Muslims. I mean, then imagine what the immigration issue would be in this country. So, my point is that in Europe, because actually also they don't want to be just like totally assimilated by America, and because they have this immigration issue which makes ours look trivial. More than ever, what you find in Europe is Europeans in France, in Germany, in Holland, in Belgium, in England, in Italy, everywhere. They are reasserting their own culture, and the last thing they want in the world is to be, assimilated to some other culture. Having someone come from some other culture, especially non-Western cultures, and tell them you have to change your culture is literally the last thing in the world they want. And therefore, you see the rise. Hey, this answer to your question.
Leo?
I just had to use the restroom, so it's fine.
Well, I guess that's a tough call. You wait 1 minute? I'm almost done.
Oh.
I mean, I don't want to torture you, but if you
fine.
wait 1 minute, this is really an answer your question.
You asked a good question.
Yeah.
He's on a roll.
Yeah. If it starts to become like really unbearable.
Okay.
So in Europe, you see the rise of all these right-wing political parties all over Europe. So in an atmosphere, so it's a preacher, you have to know where you are. You can't be in this little bliss bubble. Like, it doesn't matter where I am, because it's all involuntary and unconscious anyway. Krishna says, if anyone takes the trouble to read the last verse of chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes severe limits on the power of Agyata Sukriti. Agyata Sukriti means that people don't have to know what's going on, they'll just become devotees. Like, if the sound just enters their ear, if they just touch the book, if they eat prasadam, it doesn't matter if they know what they're doing. Now, of course, there's some benefit, but Krishna gives a very different picture. What Krishna says is, Ashadaya hutam daddam tapa, etc. It's a tongue twister sloka. Tapastaptam kritam chaja. That what Krishna says is if any religious activity, including yajna, sacrifice, any religious activity that someone does without really knowing what they're doing and without believing in what they're doing will have little effect. In this life and the next. In this life and the next. That's what Krishna says. Rupa Goswami, now, Prabhupada said there's a Agyata Sukriti. It's a valid, it's true. Prabhupada didn't make a mistake. There is benefit, but how much benefit? Krishna calls it asat. Then Rupa
Which means?
Yes, asat. Sat means literally in Sanskrit being. It's actually the present neuter participle for the verb to be. Right? And so it literally means being, but like the participle means it's a verb acting as a noun, like a living being. So, it comes to mean, like in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, it comes to mean true being, which is eternal. Like Krishna says, nasato vidite bhavo, that which is asat, which means it doesn't have true being, it's not eternal. For example, this microphone, the energy itself is eternal, as Krishna says in the Gita, but the microphone, this particular transformation of matter, will not exist in the future, didn't exist in the past. Therefore, it doesn't have true existence as a microphone. It has true existence as prakriti. It's just energy, but not as a microphone. And so like our body does not have true existence. Because it didn't exist, it won't exist. So Krishna says something which is asat, temporary, or not ultimately real, has no bhava, no real existence. So that's the word Krishna uses, asat. And then Rupa Goswami, in the Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, I believe the second verse, that verse, niyamagraha. Niyama means a rule, or a principle, what you should do. And agraha, graha, as I said, means grasping, taking. In Sanskrit is an intensifier, like really grasping something, like taking the practice as an end in itself. And of course, then you have the short prefix the short a, which means not. So not taking it, agraha, or agraha, taking it as an end in itself. So that means Rupa Goswami says that if you think that the results of bhakti are mechanical, that will destroy bhakti. And yet, if we go out to preach and we think the results are automatic, they're mechanical, sound went in the ear, they become a devotee. You buy the book, become a devotee. In other words, it's mechanical. It's just based on an external event, like sound went in an ear, someone touched this, ate that. Rupa Goswami says, if you think that alone will bring people to Krishna, that idea will destroy bhakti. And then we have Krishna's statement. So, can the world be saved involuntarily and unconsciously? No, it can't. And history proves that. History proves it if we open our eyes and look at, the remnants of the Western Hare Krishna movement. Okay, very quickly. And so, last thing, the Jamila story. The Jamila story, the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, is the main story that talks about like the power of the holy name, even if someone chants unconsciously. But the example is a Jamila. A Jamila was an advanced devotee. He was an advanced devotee. He earned his spiritual advancement. And so the Jamila story really illustrates the Gita verse, chapter 2, Neha Vikrama Nashosti. There's no loss or diminution. And anything you do will have eternal benefit. So a Jamila was brought back to a stage that he earned. Last thing. That was a 2-part last thing. And so we have to understand these things. Also, for example, and this is really the last things I know, I have to do myself, not in Shastra, in a literal form. We have to be very careful that we give a translation for that English term or phrase that is in Shastra. Because you have a term not in Shastra, and you give a definition for that term not in Shastra, you went through the rabbit hole. As in La La Land. So, I'll give you an example of a term we use all the time that is not literally in Shastra. Causeless mercy. The word mercy is obviously a prominent word. But mercy, in its literal English sense, or in any other language, it's an equivalent word, it means that it goes beyond justice. Because justice means that you just give people what they deserve. Okay, you did this, you get that. It's mechanical, it's mathematical, I don't want to hear about it. Don't tell me about your starving wife and children. You did this, you get the punishment. You did the crime, you get the, what is it? You did the crime, you get the justice. So, that's justice. Justice, but mercy means even though you deserve this, I'll give you some more. That's mercy. If you're kind to someone because they paid for it, or because that's what the law said, that's not mercy. The very word mercy means it's causeless. It's just an act of kindness for its own sake. That's what the word means. And so to say causeless mercy is redundant, but not stupid, because it's sort of emphasizing something. The problem is that when we hear this term, causeless mercy, which is not in Shastra in the literal sense, we give a false definition to it. That's the problem. The false definition that we give to causeless mercy is, for example, kind of what I call hyper-piety. A devotee will say that I don't deserve to be in this movement, I deserve to be a worm in the stool of an impersonalist raccoon or something. Devotees kind of have a competition to see how gross you will describe it. And so the point is that Krishna gives a different picture in Bhagavad Gita. For example, Krishna says, Jejata mam prapadyate. Exactly as you approach me, I reciprocate with you. Krishna says people who are drawn to Krishna consciousness, avasha, for no reason, beyond. Like some people, it's like, doesn't matter how the movement's presented, they're just drawn to it. Doesn't matter what the outreach strategy was. Why? Because of their past lives. Because they were already cultivating Krishna consciousness in a past life. And it's their past, Krishna says, Purvadeta Jnana, the awareness that they developed in a previous birth. So, nowhere in the Gita does Krishna say that the mercy you get has nothing to do with your merit. It has nothing to do with what you do. And so the idea that people can, involuntarily, unconsciously just be saved, even though they don't want to be saved, they have no merit, they take no step toward Krishna, it's just not what Krishna's teaching. I mean, obviously Krishna is infinitely merciful. And, if you pay for 3, Krishna gives you 8, throws 8 into the bag. But he does that for everyone. Krishna himself says, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, I'm equal to all living beings. He's equal and reciprocal. Krishna said we have to be equal. So, there's much more I could say, you probably heard it. So, these are some ideas. So it's very important we actually be intelligent, not religious fanatics. And so to take little details of devotional service and build them up into eternal principles is fanaticism. And if you want to know what details are and what basic principles are, read our books. That's all there. So thank you very much. And Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for coming. Hope you'll come again. Anyone who might like to say hello to Maharaj, please feel free. Otherwise, breakfast is going to be served out on the porch this morning.
Brahmacharya has a battery-operated credit card reader.
So 2 wet, so we'll serve it here? All right, so we'll have to make a little room, use the porch, but can someone let the breakfast devotees know we're ready? So?
Okay, so we're in here or on the porch?
No, okay.
Well, the porch is like, because there's a turning, so let's say
We'll serve in here and on the front.